Hi everyone and welcome back to the Crafty Yellow Camper, and today I've got a card for you that I've cased from an American demonstrator, and she is called the Pampered Stamper. She has some lovely cards on her blog. I really fell in love with this gatefold card. Firstly, I just feel like I need to make an apology. I've just realised, looking through the camera, how disgustingly dirty my mat is that I'm working on. So apologies for that. I will clean it after I finish this video. It's been a gluey day. So this is the card. It opens out like this. I just realised I've got a bit of shadow stamping on there as well. But anyway, never mind. I'll sort that out later as well. There's going to be a lot of sorting that out later, this video, I feel. Anyway, so the Pampered Stamper, and this is a card I've chosen to make. What I've done is, she's an American demonstrator, so her tutorials are in inches. And I've converted this as I'm a UK demo. I do sometimes work in inches, but because our cardstock is better suited to centimetres, I've converted this into centimetres. So I'm going to put this to one side and we can get started. So there are quite a lot of bits and pieces to this. It is quite a card heavy card and a paper heavy card. So the bits and pieces that I'm using for this card, I've got the Charming Day stamp set, and I'm just using this image, and these are the Charming Day dies, and I've just used this die here of some leaves. And then I have used the Charming, I hope if I looked at the Floral Charm Designer Series paper, which, as you can see, lovely colours: Night of Navy, Pretty Peacock, Blackberry Bliss, Berry Burst and Mossy Meadow. So we've got the roses that side and plain a patterned blue on that side, and then there's this one which has got I think that's Timid Tiger. That's one of the few colours I haven't actually got, to be fair, and that's got that green sort of Pretty Peacock leafy bit on the back. What else have we got? Oh, the paper that I'm going to use for this card today is this one, and it's absolutely lovely. Now it says in the colours on the back, for those of you that are new to Stampin' Up, if you don't know, then it always lists, hopefully you can see that, all the colours that are in the papers on the back, and it hasn't got a brown, but I'm thinking that what this green is here is a sort of second generation stamping of Mossy Meadow, but I've actually paired Blackberry Bliss with Pecan Pie, because I think that goes quite nicely with that one. What else have we got? And then there's this one, which has got the Mossy Meadow, Night of Navy and the Timid Tiger, and that has Timid Tiger on the back. And I forgot to show you the back of that one, which is sort of a wash of Melon Mambo, I think. And then there's this one, which has got the Blackberry Bliss in it with the Timid Tiger and the Mossy Meadow, and that's sort of got a Mossy Meadow wash on the background. I'm just trying to check what else there is. Oh, I've already shown you the roses. Oh, and this one, which I think is really nice. And that's got that Blackberry Bliss sort of leafy pattern on the back. So those are the papers that I'm using. So some of you, well, most of you won't know that I have had a sort of a fairly big break of making YouTube videos, because I ended up in hospital in October last year with a very bad back. So forgive me if some of these bits and pieces are no longer available. They're a bit of a mix of online exclusives and the main catalogue, I think. But these bits and pieces I bought before Christmas, and they've been sitting on my desk and they haven't been used. So now I've started up my card classes again and posting on YouTube. My aim is to use up some of the stuff that I bought before Christmas, and it isn't available. And I haven't used it. It doesn't mean it isn't available. Okay, right. So I've got lots and lots of bits and pieces here. So the first thing we need to do, the actual base of this card, if you like, this bit here, we're going to start with that. And I have got a piece of, I'm going to tell you the measurements, a piece of Blackberry Bliss, and this is 14 centimetres by 10. No, 14 centimetres by nearly 11. Why is it that big? Let me just consult my numbers. Ah. Right, yes. So the measurements that the American lady gave were 4¼ by 11 inches. So I've converted that, to 28 centimetres by 10½. That's why that didn't measure 10. But surprisingly, that is slightly more than 10½. Okay. I might have to trim that down a little bit. Let me just bring in my trusty trimmer. It's literally a sliver. Look at that. Somebody didn't measure very well, Julia. That would be me. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is these two pieces are going to get matted together. So they're both the same depth, and there's a slight distance on the edge, at each edge. So I'm just going to stick these together, and this, I've got a new glue and it is coming out really fast. Won't stay new for very long doing this card. So yeah, so that is that goes on level like that with just a, sorry, let me just slide that up a bit. That goes on level, so there's no gap top and bottom, just a small gap down the side. Okay, so that's our base. So let's just pop that out of the way. And then we've got the piece that is going to make the gatefold section, and that's 28 centimetres long. And then we need to score this. So again, I've converted this. So we score at 5 centimetres, which is just a fraction under 2 inches, and that's the measurement that the American lady gave. So 5 centimetres that end. And then we need to score it again at 4½ centimetres. No, that's not right, is it? Hang on a second. Let me just measure it. What if I done my ruler? Let me just measure my card. Right, yeah. So we've got 5, and then, sorry, the inner measurement is 4½, but obviously 5 and 4½ is 9½. So there we go. So we've scored that end, and I just need to do the 9½ this end. Sorry about that, guys. I'd measured the panels and forgotten to add them together. Right, so what we've got to do then is we fold the inner score line, so it's a valley. I'm going to do that on the other side as well. Give it a good score, and then we fold the other score line so it's a mountain. So we've got a valley and a mountain each side, and give those a good burnish with your bone folder, otherwise they'll keep bouncing up. That's what keeps happening on my other card. And then you'll see they fit nicely in the middle. There's a tiny gap, but not much. And then I'm going to turn that over and score that on the back again. If you do burnish, if you do this at this stage, then it stops it bouncing open as much. So if I just show you, that's the one that I've given a good burnish to, and this is my other card, and that pops open a little bit more. That just needed to have had a little bit more of a burnish, but I'm going to stand that under a punch and that'll soon flatten that down. Right, so this is the piece that is then going to be mounted on here, like so. But before we do that, we need to put some DSP on this edge here. Now, what I could have done with this pecan pie section, I could have just literally put on a piece that was about 5 centimetres wide each side, because this is going to cover the vast majority of it up. but I didn't. So, right, now we're going to come in. So this piece of white is going to go in the middle. So we'll just pop that to one side for now. And now we're going to come in with the panels. So each of these 1, 2, 3, 4 panels have got a piece of cardstock to go on them, and then a piece of designer series paper. You might hear me refer to it as DSP, and you can see that this one is slightly wider. So these are for the outer panels, these two here, and these two are for the inner panels. And then we've got the papers. So there are also 2 pieces of paper on here to go on the outside, which is why before we stick this center section on. So I'm just working out what's got to go where. So those sections look like they go on there. Now I've got 6 ladies coming to do my card class, and 1 lady that's asked for this as a kit. So I've got quite a lot of card knocking about on my desk. That's it. And those will go there. So let's start putting these together. So I find it easier to lay my papers on the cardstock first before I then stick that on there. So that way I can do my best to match up the elements of the pattern that are continuous. So I don't know if you can see on here, we've got that sort of branch going through there. And here we've got a flower that's been cut in half. Actually, I'm just going to have a look. Is that the same there? Yes. So do you see what I mean about being able to get them up the right way? Once you've stuck these onto the actual card, you can't get them off. So I find it easier to do this and then work out. Right, so I'm just going to put some Tombow. And I'm using Tombow because it gives us a little bit more wiggle room. Always handy when you're trying to do this kind of thing on camera. Up in the air. Right, and then we'll put this one on here. You don't need tons of glue because otherwise it'll all squirt out and then you'll have it everywhere. Okay, so that's that one. So we're doing these with a small border all the way round. Obviously, if you are using a pattern that has an obvious directional pull to it, you need to make sure that everything is facing the same way when you're cutting your papers. So that's just something to be mindful of, because obviously these are quite small pieces of paper that I've cut out of a 12 by 12 sheet. So yeah, so just check if you've got a directional pattern that it's going in the right direction. Right, so you can see there, you see if I'd have stuck that one on straight away, that would have been up the wrong way. So we can see that these 2 patterns match here. So those are going onto the outside edges, and then these 2 are going onto the middle edges. So this is the other reason I work this out. So this one and this one match. So when the card is closed, they will match. And then we've got these 2 that are on the internal panels. So I'd like, as much as possible, even though they're not going to be next door to each other on the card, they're going to be across the middle from each other. I still like to try and make sure that they're sort of lined up as much as possible. So I think that's the way we're going there. So let's put these on our card base. So this one is going to go over this side here. And again, there's a small border all the way around. And then this one, which matches up there, is going to go on this side here. Just remember, once you've actually glued these on, you're never going to get them off again. So, you know, if you're wanting to pattern match and stuff like that, then do make sure that you check it and check it again before you stick it down. And then these 2 are going to go in here. And they don't actually match up, I don't think, to... No, they don't match up to any of that. But they are going to be on opposite sides of the middle. So I just want to make sure that we've got the best match. Yeah, I think that's the best match for those. So let's just put those on. I know it's a little bit OCD of me, but that's just the way I am. Right, There's a lot of things I can let go, but if patterns are sort of glaringly, obviously next to each other and don't match up, it bugs me. One of my little foibles. Okay, so that one is going on there, and obviously make sure you're lining up the tops and bottoms. Right, so that's our middle card. So you can see when that's closed, these two line up, and that just one of the little things in life that makes me happy. Right, the next thing we need to do is to put on these two pieces, which are going to sit on the edges of our card, and they sit within the edge of this interior part there. So they will go there and there. So again, they aren't gonna be sat right next door to each other, but I still just like to do my best to line them up if I can, and I think that will be fine. Again, with these smaller, all over sort of reasonably busy patterns, it gives you a little bit more leeway. So that's going to go on there like that, and then we've got to stick this other side on. Okay, and that piece is going to go on there and leave us a little bit of a border there. Okay, so then this is going to sit on there. Now, you could have put a whole piece of patterned paper here, but look how much you would have wasted if you'd put a whole panel on there. And I like to conserve paper. It's beautiful, and I know we should use it, but equally, it's nice to be able to use it on plenty of projects rather than being a bit wasteful with it on one. Okay, now what we're going to do is now this lines up top and bottom with our back piece of cardstock. I'm just going to make sure I've got that level. Yep, that looks fine. A little bit of glue there. Okay, and I'm going to turn that over and give that a good push because we want to make sure that that is securely attached. Okay, so we now need to put our panel in the middle. So we've got this piece of basic white. I haven't told you any of the measurements for these, have I? I've just realised. Okay, so I'll run through that in a minute. So our piece of basic white goes in the middle, and I just want to stamp a greeting. So I'm using the Charming Day set, and I'm going to use the happy birthday. Now, a lot of the time I don't put sentiments on my cards, but I have got several birthdays coming up. So I think probably happy birthday is the sentiment that most of us use the most. And I'm going to go for Blackberry Bliss, which is the cardstock base colour. Now, can you see this is juicy? I must have re-inked this pad, and I've got a lot of ink around the outside, and what we don't want is what I ended up with on my last card. So I'm just going to grab a baby wipe. You could take this off your chamois with your chamois, take the whole lot off and then just ink it a bit more carefully, but right, so that's that off. I'm just taking a little bit of ink off that H, so just very gently going to tap that back on there, and then I'll bring this in. I'm trying not to get ink everywhere, and then we will just stamp. Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing. I'll push it up in a minute. We'll just stamp our happy birthday on there. Clean that. I try and remember to clean my stamps as I go, otherwise I get in a right muddle on my desk with stamps that need to be cleaned. Okay, so that's that one. So that can go. Just going to get rid of this ink. I know what I'm like with Blackberry Bliss, and I end up with it everywhere. It's a gorgeous colour, but it's one of the messiest. Okay, so I'm just going to put some Tombow again on the back there. Best not to use dimensionals on a card like this because, or at least for these sections, because it's obviously going to be quite a chunky card because we've got quite a lot of layers. Okay, so that's on there. And then just to finish it off, we want something on the front. So what I've done is I've grabbed out a punch. Now, for the life of me, I have no idea what this is called. It's sort of a circle with a wavy edge, but not a circle. Okay, and I'm just going to punch a piece of basic white which is, oh my word, bits everywhere all over my desk. So I'm just going through my packet of basic white and picking out a piece that I can just stamp out of. So try and use your scraps up for things like this. And then I'm gonna punch it first and then stamp on it. Doesn't matter which way around you do it, but I find it less wasteful of cardstock if I punch first. Right, and we're going to use this image here. They're sort of dog roses, I suppose. And then I'm going to come in with some Memento rather than one of our water-based colours. And I'm going to ink this up in London Fog, which is a grey. Now, I'm not going to colour this, but you can colour it with blends or watercolour pencils. I'm just going to stamp that sort of fairly central on there. I'll just clean my stamp off. Colours like London Fog, you can't actually see if there's any ink left on there. So again, it's a good idea to clean as you go. Right, and then this is going to be attached to one side. So we only need to put dimensionals on one side. But before I do that, I'm just going to grab my Blackberry Bliss out again, and this is where it all gets messy. I'm trying to keep my fingers away from it. Okay, and I've just got, this is actually a broken blending brush, but it does for what I need it for. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of ink, and then I'm just going to ink around the edges just to take away from that whiteness. So I'm just literally, I'm holding the brush level and making a pig's ear of it. Right, so you can see there I've knocked the brush, so let's just go all over it. On my other card I managed to be delicate and just get the edges. I told you I was getting a mess with Blackberry Bliss, didn't I? It's one of my favourite colours, but it's just so messy. Right, so we've inked all over that, so that then now matches our background card. And on the other card I made, because I was a bit more delicate, I just literally inked round, hopefully you can see that, just around the edges to take the whiteness away. So we now need to work out where we want our dimensionals. So I think they can go on this side here. And I'm just looking for some, right, okay. Oh, there's one there. Okay, and obviously don't forget to use your edges up when you've used all the ones in the middle. Nobody sees them behind the whatever it is you're sticking on. Just bring my little jar of bits. I need to empty my little jar of bits. Right, and then this is going to go sort of fairly central, but with the dimensionals just one side, otherwise you won't be able to open the card. And then what we're going to do, I've already die cut some leaves using that die, just so you didn't have to wait while I was cutting stuff. And I'm just going to use some mini dimensionals on the back of these. They're just about the right size that they fit on to the leaves. So yeah, I am adding some dimensionals. This isn't really the kind of card you would put in the post to somebody. This is going to be a hand it out when you see the recipient type of card, because unfortunately with the post office, if you send something that's a bit thick, it can get mangled in the post going through the machinery the post office use, but also the recipient might end up with extra postage if it doesn't fit. Okay, so these are going to go on here. Oops, fiddly. So I'm just going to pop that one on there. So I've cut these in Blackberry Bliss and in Pecan Pie. And they're just going to layer up like that. Okay, and there's our finished card. Oh no, we're not quite finished. Do excuse me. There were also in this grouping of products these lovely shimmer dots. They're called the Charming Shimmer Faceted Dots, and they come in Pretty Peacock, Melon Mambo, and sort of a peachy colour. I'm guessing that's meant to be a light version of Timid Tiger, but I don't know. Anyway, they're very pretty. So I just feel like we need a couple of those on here. Actually, do you know what? That pink one doesn't go so well. I did put that on the previous card. We'll go for a Pretty Peacock and then one of these peachy, orangey coloured ones there. Okay, so there's our finished card. I hope you like it. It stands up quite nicely. Hope you can see that. And thank you to the Pampered Stamper for her instructions in inches. If you find inches easier to work with, then obviously hop over to her video. So I did say that I would tell you the measurements. So our long piece of the card, I think I did tell you, that is 28 centimeters long by 10.5 centimeters deep, and we scored that at 5 centimeters and 9.5 centimeters to get our two flaps at the ends. The actual base, so this bottom bit here, that is 10.8 by 14 centimeters, and our pecan pie layer on that is 10.5 by 13.2. Actually, no, it must be 10.5 on both. No, it's 10.5 on both, not 10.8. And then that has got some paper on the top, and I have cut that at 10 centimeters by 3 centimeters. Okay, and that's the sections that you see there. And then these sections that you see inside, on each side, we have a piece that is 3 centimeters by 10 centimeters. So everything is 10 centimeters deep. So these are 3 centimeters, and the others are 4 by 10 centimeters. So we've got, so these are 3 centimeters, they're 4 centimeters, and everything is 10 centimeters deep. And the cardstock is 4.5 by 10 and 4 by 10. And then the white section in the middle, that is cut at 8 by 10 centimeters. So I hope that all makes sense. If for any reason you can't follow those instructions and I've said them too quickly, please feel welcome to message me, and I'll be happy to screenshot my instructions and send them to you. Okay, so that's our card for today. I hope you've enjoyed that. It's a little bit longer video than I often have, and it is quite card heavy and measurement heavy, but it is a beautiful card and it looks complicated, and it isn't really that difficult to put together. Okay, that's it from me for today, sorry, and I'll see you all again soon. Thanks for watching, and happy stamping.